All right, you talked about the big, beautiful bill. Perfect segue. This morning, President Trump will head to Capitol Hill to attend a House Republican conference meeting and urge them to unite and to pass this one big, beautiful bill.
So Peter Doocy's at the White House with more. Peter.
And something you don't usually see behind us on the North Lawn, the Beast is getting ready to take President Trump to do something that he rarely does. He's going to go to Capitol Hill with the full presidential package, the whole motorcade, the small army of Secret Service, a dozen or so aides, and he is going to lean on Republican holdouts to get them to yeses on this big, beautiful bill.
If we don't get it, that means the Democrats will have stopped us, and that means people will get a 68% tax increase, the largest in history. And if we do get it, we're going to have the largest tax decrease in history. And all my life, I've watched politicians screaming, "We will cut your taxes." This is the only group where they say, "We're going to raise your taxes," and they think they're going to win. There's something wrong with them.
Blue state Republicans want higher caps on state and local tax, or SALT, deductions. Speaker Johnson is saying we are continuing to work on it. It is not a final resolution yet, but I think we're getting very close. The White House is warning, meantime, that failure to pass the big, beautiful bill will be seen as a betrayal by the voting public.
The America First policies in this bill are the reason why Republicans currently have the majority in Congress right now. And that's why it's essential that every Republican in the House and the Senate unites behind President Trump and passes this popular and essential legislative package.
President Trump seems to just want to get it over with today. He is going to leave ahead of a 9 a.m. closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill as the clock ticks towards this deadline that Republicans set for themselves to get the big, beautiful bill passed by Monday. That only gives them 6 more days. Back to you.
Hey, so Peter, let's say they get this done Memorial Day or a day or two after. The Senate takes it up right away, correct? And then their goal is July 4th?
Yes. And so this is a big part of the reason why President Trump signed so many executive orders when he first came into office, because it takes, even with Republicans in the Senate and Republicans in the House, it is taking forever to get anything done legislatively. And so, yes, Memorial Day would be the goal for that House if they can get there after President Trump's visit today. And then 4th of July-ish for the Senate, and then President Trump can sign it again if they get there. They've got enough holdouts that it might be a real problem. And this is a big part of the reason why they pulled Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the UN ambassador down, because they are so slim with their majority. They need each vote, including hers.
That's why they're smushing this all together, trying to use reconciliation so they don't have to worry about that 60-vote filibuster in the Senate, right?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Thanks, Peter.
Great job.
Well, I think, of course, this process is frustrating, but they're getting all of the president's promises in one bill. So we knew that it was going to be a little complicated because you got the border, you got taxes, you got everything.
Tax on overtime.
Exactly. So a lot of things are in here. But there's one thing that's just grinding my gears. And look, it would benefit me because I have to pay New York taxes. But I don't understand how the GOP conference, you have representatives from New York that want this SALT deduction. It's not fair to the other states.
You know what their argument is?
Their argument is that
they pay
get
more to the federal government. And do you know that we're, the threshold is 400,000. Or you're not going to get anything off unless it's 400,000. They want to give a 40,000. They want to. The policy would lift the 10,000 cap, with 0, to 30,000, subjected to higher deduction for new income restrictions on taxpayers who make 400,000. So if you make 400,000 or less, you can write it off. If you don't, you're not. So that is going to allow. That was a big cut. There was a pay for in 2017. Now that's virtually gone. So what are you going to do? It's going to add to the spending. So that's what Chip Roy and others are saying, that adds to the spending. Why are we leaving so much of the new Green Deal in? So here's where the rubber hits the road. And I'm not rationalizing it, but they say in New York, you got the Wind Project. So the Wind Project is supposed to be 100,000 jobs and supposed to power for 500,000 people. Let's get rid of it because it's the new Green Deal. But a lot of Republicans in New York say, wait a second, we need that for jobs. And you have people lobbying on that.
If you're an older person, no tax on Social Security. If you work in Vegas, if you work in a restaurant, no tax on overtime or on tips. It's advantageous for a lot of Americans.
Real quickly, as I was talking about that I'm against the SALT deduction, one of the counter arguments that is also being made, to your point, Brian, is that they say that those districts are competitive for Republicans. And this is one thing that they could get that could keep that a Republican seat. So I do see both sides on it.
But the Medicaid is the thing. It's reform, not reduce. Reform to what its original mandate was for the children and the disabled. Obama expanded to the point where it's unaffordable, and the federal government's on the hook for 95% of it.
It's crazy.
That's what blew up the budget.
And on the left side of your screen, there he is, just entering the Capitol now. Let's see if he makes any remarks.
Well, it's not a question of holdouts. We have a tremendously unified party. I don't think we've ever had a party like this. There are some people that want a couple of things that maybe I don't like or that they're not going to get. But I think we're going to have tremendous, not luck, we have tremendous talent. This man has done an incredible job as Speaker. You know, we had a majority of 1. We were 1 heart attack away from losing the House, okay? Now we have 7. That's a big, because we won some elections, as you probably noticed, and we're going to win a lot of elections. We have an economy that's roaring. We took out $5.1 billion. If you take a look, $5.1 trillion with a T, not a B. $5.1 trillion out of the Middle East. They're investing more than that. It's going to be ultimately more than that. With 180 wide-body Boeing aircraft. They're spending money at levels that nobody's ever seen. Usually a president goes for a trip and he loses money. In other words, he gives money. We went for a trip and we took out $5.1 trillion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And that's just the beginning. So I think we're a very unified party. The Senate's doing great. John Thune is doing fantastically. He's a great guy. And we're going to have a bill, the one big beautiful bill. I think it's going to be, it's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts, all these regulations that are so horrible. And now you find out and find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that can want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa. They came in from Asia. They came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute. This is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that, and 1 or 2 grandstanders. We only have 1 or 2, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before. This is bigger than any Ronald Reagan tax cut. It's even bigger than the tax cut that I gave, because as you know, that's being extended and increased. So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. Or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because there wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much more importantly for the country. But I'm a cheerleader for the party. and we're going to go up, and I think we're going to have a very good discussion. There are 1 or 2 points that some people feel strongly about, but maybe not so strong.
On one of those points, do you consider some of the proposals on the table, like co-pay and provider tax, as a benefit cut? How are you viewing those?
No, we're going to look. We are looking at one thing. We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful. The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. With Medicaid, waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. There's incompetent things with it. We have illegal aliens that are multiple killers with multiple murder records getting Medicaid. I don't think anybody minds if we cut that. The Democrats, on the other hand, are going to destroy it because they're going to leave these people on. We're cutting 3 things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security. And if I wanted to do those things, I would have done it during my 4 years that we were.
Mr. President, what's your message to your fellow New Yorker Republicans who are hung up on the SALT issue?
Well, SALT is a very interesting thing because the governors of New York and Illinois, you know, the big JB who's going nowhere. Probably right now he could be the worst governor in the country. But Illinois and Gavin Newsom, those are the people that want this. And they're Democrat states. They're all Democrat states. You know, Ronald Reagan tried very hard to get this passed, was unable to do it the way we have it, where basically everybody's treated equally. He tried it so hard, and he never got it done. He was always disappointed. He never got it done. We got it done. Now people want to change it. So we're going to be talking about that. But the biggest beneficiary, if we do that, are governors from New York, Illinois, and California. And those governors are the ones that blew it because they weren't able to get it. So I think we're going to be explaining that. These are all very blue states that I don't really believe. If we had honest elections, I don't actually believe. I think I would have won California. I would have won New York. I even think I would have won Illinois. I think if we have to, you know, we're going to start this after. I was talking to Mike, and again, I'm his biggest fan. I love this guy. He's the only guy who could have walked in with a 1. Think of it. You can't be a guy like me and have a 1 majority. You have to be a guy like him, a nice person. He's very religious. He prays. He's a man of God. And so am I, but he's really to a new level, I will tell you. He is a great guy. They love him in Louisiana, and they love him in... That's the only kind of guy. Somebody said, oh, well, we want somebody that... If you put a certain personality in there, you would have never... Look at what he got passed. What he's gotten passed. And just so you understand, he's getting this passed, too. And I don't think there's anybody I could give you guys that is so tough you guys would run if you ever looked at him. If you ever saw some of these guys, you would not ask him questions you'd be afraid to. This guy did something that I don't think there's anybody that's more well-suited to be Speaker of the House, especially in a case like this. Remember, we had a majority of 1 for 6 months, and that was a very frightening thing because the Democrats have really hurt our country. And we are going to go into very much, remember what I said, the auto pay. This government was illegally run for 4 years. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, should the DOJ be charging a member of Congress?
Weren't sure we would get comments, but we got quite a bit right there. It's not a question of holdouts, says the president. There are some, however, within the Republican caucus that want bigger cuts in Medicaid. That seems to be a sticking point. Overall, it is a big bill, and we'll see how beautiful it is in the end. More than 1,100 pages. Your main provisions here are the extension of the tax cuts for individuals and businesses going back to 2017. There's other requirements in here for parents and older Americans, for work requirements for food assistance. There's new work requirements for Medicaid. There's no money for Planned Parenthood, something Republicans wanted. There's this new provision for $1,000 savings accounts for what's called MAGA Kids, which stands for Money Accounts for Growth and Advancement. There's funding for a mass deportation operation, which is a big deal, and I don't think a lot of people have really dived into this enough just yet. They want to hire 10,000 new ICE agents. They want to finish the border wall. All that money is appropriated in the bill that they're trying to negotiate and pass right now.
And they want a lot of spending cuts, and that is why we are here at this moment, because Speaker Johnson can only lose 3 Republicans, and right now he does not have the votes. There are 3 holdouts, and the president is hoping to change their minds this morning. He's headed over to a closed-door conference right now. Just some color from inside the room as those Republicans are waiting for his arrival. Some are texting me right now from inside that room saying that there was a lot of tension ahead of this, but there is high energy in this room, a lot of electricity, and another just texted me, nothing generates buzz like Trump in the Capitol. So they're looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Just pointing out there, Bill, he was holding on to a folder, which is very unlike President Trump, so perhaps he is there to get into the weeds of what the issues are and perhaps negotiates with these holdouts. So let's go live now to Chad Program. He is just standing outside the room where the president will enter any moment now. Chad, what's the latest down there?
Good morning, Aisha and Bill. When you talk about generating a buzz here, what he needs to generate are votes. I talked to Thomas Massey, the Republican from Kentucky, who said he's an absolute no. I talked a few minutes ago to Ralph Norman. He's a Republican from South Carolina who eventually voted present to get that measure out of the Budget Committee on Sunday night. He says, I have to go back and read through the bill. I have to see potential changes that Mike Johnson is going to drop into this probably in the dead of night sometime in the next 24 hours. He said that takes some time to process. So this is far from a done deal. This is probably the highest stakes poker that President Trump has played on domestic policy during his second term, because he has to get this bill through. He talks about the art of the deal. He needs to get the votes. And as I always say, it's about the math. If they were to put this bill on the floor right now, it would not pass. Now, keep in mind, we might get a few comments here from the president as he walks by, being escorted by Bill McFarland, the Sergeant at Arms. Let's listen for a second.
We have a very, very united party. This man has done a fantastic job, and so have you, Lisa. Thank you. But this man has done a fantastic job. He's a real unifier. I don't think anybody else could have done it. We had, I just said to your cohorts downstairs, we had a majority of 1 for a period of 5 months. And he kept it together, and we actually passed things. And nobody else could have done it. He's done a fantastic job as Speaker. We have a very, very unified party. Remember, we had 1, and now we have 7. We won elections. We won elections. I'm going to win a lot of elections. The economy is good. I just had my highest poll numbers ever. And we had a big trip to the Middle East. We took in $5.1 trillion. We brought it back to our country. 180 Boeing aircraft are being built now because of that trip, and many other things. That's the least of it. The economy is doing great. The stock market's higher now than when I came to office, and we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff money, and we've had no inflation. You know, they kept saying inflation. There's no inflation. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way down. Way down. Everything is down. All energy costs are down. I'll tell you, to me, maybe the most respected thing, you saw the way they respected me between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and UAE, probably the richest, certainly the richest of their type nation, great places, unbelievable amounts of money. They respect our country again. They were going to go to China. China was going to take over those countries 100%. They were dealing with China because they weren't treated right by the last administration. And they have tremendous economic power. They have more money than anybody. We probably have more money, but we have other things. They are very cash rich, to put it mildly. And they're spending 5.1 trillion. Probably it's going to be 7 trillion by the time we stop. And, somebody said every other president goes and leaves and spends money, gives other countries money. I'm the only one that goes and takes money back. When you think of it, I said, that's an interesting statement. I never thought of it that way. But we have this is really just a pep talk. We have a very unified House, and we have a very unified Senate. And Mike is doing a phenomenal job as Speaker. He's going to be there a long time. And we have a man in the Senate, our leader, Thune. Mr. Thune is doing a great job. I've gotten to like him a lot, and he's doing a fantastic job. Between the two guys, very different personalities, actually, in certain ways, but they are doing a fantastic job. I don't think the Republican Party has ever been so unified. It's become a much bigger party. You know, we're winning the labor vote. We won the Teamsters. We won votes that nobody. Look how well we did with the automakers. And by the way, the president of the automakers is now my biggest fan. He said he did tariffs. Do you know how many auto plants are being built now in this country because of the tariffs? 3 just announced yesterday that they're building. There's a revolution going on, a positive one, in our country, and I love it, and we're doing really well. And we'll see the
negotiations to stop, Mr. President. Do you want the negotiations to be over now?
Which negotiation?
Over this bill.
Oh yeah, well it's going to be. We're going to be putting it in soon, and I think we're going to have great support.
Are you going to?
We're going to make a couple of tweaks. I mean, we don't want to benefit Democrat governors, although I would do that if it made it better, but they don't know what they're doing.
So you want
we don't want to do any damage to a state. We want to help all the states, but we have governors that are from the Democrat Party. Let's say New York, Illinois, big ones, and let's say Gavin Newsom, who's done a horrible job in California. You know, we want to benefit we want to benefit Republicans because they are the ones that are going to make America great again. The Democrats are destroying our country, and you see that with the past administration, with an open borders policy that allowed 21 million people into our country, and many of those people are stone-cold murderers, killers, and trouble. Yeah.
What are you planning to tell the fiscal hawks who want to delay this? What are you planning to tell the fiscal hawks who want to delay this?
I'm a fiscal hawk.
They don't think this cuts enough spending.
I'm a bigger fiscal hawk. There's nobody like me as a fiscal hawk.
Massey said that that is more deficit than Biden did, and this bill kind of...
Because we have to fix the country.
Do you think that Thomas Massey is correct in saying that this is adding Biden level
No, I don't
spending?
think Thomas Massey understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office. And I just don't think he understands government. If you ask him a couple of questions, he never gives you an answer. He just says, I'm a no. He thinks he's going to get publicity. And you have that. You have that. They've got some too. Go ahead.
Mr. President, on Medicaid, do you want work requirements phased in next year? Do you think
Here's
that's
what I want
possible?
on Medicaid. We're not touching anything. All I want is one thing. 3 words. We don't want any waste, fraud, or abuse. Very simple. Waste, fraud, abuse. Other than that, we're leaving it. Medicare, we're leaving it. All we're after, and this is for the good of it, is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all we're doing. We're not touching it. The Democrats are going to destroy it. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, do you think you'll be able to convince Chip Roy and Ralph Norman to vote for this bill?
What's your message to them?
We're not getting Medicaid.
There are conservatives in this room who want to go further.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all the cuts we're doing. Thank you very much.